Hello, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Mode. I'm Jenna,
And I'm Todd.
and today we are talking about how to prepare for your next research project. Here we go. Hello, Todd.
Hi, Jenna. Thanks for doing this topic with me. I know every week we storyline out what we want to talk about, and this was my topic for the week, and I think it was interesting. I hope you do
I
too.
love it. Yeah, I love it. I think it'll be super helpful. And it's almost like a wish list of what we wish each of our clients would like come to the table with. I'm just kidding. We love our clients and they're amazing and I learned so much from them. But if every single client came with all of this, just check, 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 we'd be like, all right, let's get the show on the road.
That's right. And, maybe my subconscious was working here because this is a story about how to prepare for research. And I'm here in Florida, so we are preparing for a hurricane that's supposed to hit tomorrow. So maybe that was running in the background too when I was thinking about this topic and think about preparation.
Yes, I'm South Carolina, so I am right there with you.
Yes,
Hopefully we are able to keep our power and all that good stuff.
gas,
I
bottled
can't believe
water, and
hurricane
milk.
season's here. Yeah,
I
yeah,
was gonna say, I don't
exactly.
know why milk became such a
Oh,
staple for us, but anytime before a storm, you got to get lots of milk. I don't
all right. I know. Oh
know.
gosh.
But Jenna, when I was thinking about this topic, and like you said, we love all our clients, and they come with all levels of, like, I guess, preparedness, maybe as they start the survey process. And so this was just kind of highlight, I think, some things that I think you can use and think about before you go into that first, like, launch call uh, with your team or with an outside company. The first thing I thought about was just really outline how you want to, the objective of this research do you want to do? Is it for brand building? Is it for leads? Obviously, it can be for a combination of things.
It
Sometimes,
usually is.
yeah, usually it is. A lot of times, I know we talk to clients who they have maybe a new product or a new feature coming out in the next couple months, and so they want to have some data to help support that launch. There's a lot of different reasons, but yeah, I think outlining those objectives that you have for this can be very helpful.
Yeah, we just recently had a client that knew that, uh brand new ESG sustainability regulations were up, about to come out. So they wanted to get ahead of that and be relevant in that conversation. So it's just kind of putting your brand in the right place at the right time on a particular topic, even.
That's right, and I think we have clients who they're in a new and growing market space, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, ESG, or we're working on some EV type of research right now, and they want to get out and make sure that they kind of put their stake into uh, like a go-to resource for this topic, so they know that this is a fast-paced industry, and they want to put their brand and have their brand attached to it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there is no wrong answer when it comes to what you want this research to do. It's just, lead generation could be a very small, if, goal compared to something just like brand awareness, or vice versa.
Right. And especially when you're talking about, quote, traditional leads like downloads and things like that. I know a lot of our clients now, that might be a subset of what they do,
Hmm.
but it's also, building engagement, right, and awareness. And if you're like an account-based marketing company, for example, and you have a lot, complex sale, a lot of different people involved in that sales process, when you think about it, uh, what happens in that scenario would be the more people within a company that know about that brand, that can be very powerful. So, for example, if a company, like, we have this all the time, uh, a company approaches us and I'll ask them, how do they know about us? It's like, oh, we saw your research. We saw you on XYZ website. And so I think a lot of times, when you think about those type of objectives where, you want this general like not a soft brand awareness, but a brand awareness that's really tied to, quantifiable data and leadership. I think a lot of times people come to us and say, we want to be known as a thought leader. And that's, so that's their objective. And then we can help construct it from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, actual goals for the content that is produced as well, beyond the report. Maybe you're turning the report into the report that we produce for you into a series of infographics or a series of social media posts, and any information regarding your, what the objective is as far as like content use is concerned is helpful for us as well when we start to kind of prepare for your research project.
That's right. If you want to have the media pick it up, then we can start thinking about the type of questions that would attract media attention, or maybe you want to have a series of events or ways to get your executive team and get their name out. So you want their name attached maybe to some quotes about the research. Then, if that's one of your objectives, and it might not be the only objective, but if that's one of your objectives, then we can make sure that the survey incorporates the type of output that's going to help support that. So objective is really important because it really does set up everything you do.
Absolutely. I see that I actually just kind of entered into your number 2 here, but the use of the research. I blew it.
Oh, I know. It's like, oh, but we like this so much. We just love to talk about it. But,
yeah, can't stop.
But it's true. Like, so number 2 was just kind of how you're going to use the research. Is it could, and again, this a lot of times is not just one thing. It can be used in multiple ways, but are you going to use it? I mean, most of our clients are using their research for some sort of external component. So that could be, creating a report on your website, but you want to use it to get engagement, right? So that it's used for external marketing and sales purposes, but it could also be used for internal purposes. Maybe your team needs to better understand where the industry is going. You want to see like if the features, and maybe you have a timeline of features and products coming out, and you want to make sure that what you're planning aligns with what the industry wants. So you might have a series of data that you're not really intending to share with the world, but it'll help influence what you do internally.
Yeah, and I'm sure this happens to you too, but when I talk about the research that we do, because it is so much for marketing purposes and not the traditional like market research, but which is I imagine kind of more of an internal use of it to fuel your decision making for upcoming products launched or marketing, whatever it may be. But a lot of what we do, like you said, is external, and so it's actually used for content marketing and for social media marketing and to fuel email campaigns and business development and decks and all that stuff. So yeah, and what would be also great is a combination of both.
Right. It definitely doesn't have to be either or. And sometimes, I mean, I would say, Jenna, I don't think we've really quantified this, but I would say the majority of the time, most of the research that we gather and the data we gather, we use the majority of it. Maybe not all maybe not all the segmentation information, but if we have 20 questions, we're using most of those questions to formulate a component of that report that we're creating. But you don't have to use it all, right? If there's some things that maybe it's like, I want to just reserve this because I think it's like something that we just want to have internal, or for whatever reason, it doesn't have to all be used in that report. You're not signing a contract in blood that says we're going to publish every single thing that we get.
That's true. Every once in a while we do kind of disagree, or just like, have one of those questions that is just like, I don't know if this is necessary. Is it necessary? But if the timing works, we're just like, you know what, throw it in. And if we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't.
Right. And I think the last thing just on this topic would be, how you're going to use the research and your objective. They really kind of do go hand in hand. That's probably
Yeah.
why Jenna started talking about it, because you really can't talk about the one without the other. And
Yeah.
so having these, as you can think about with your team, having these conversations before you actually launch into like creating questions and things can be very valuable.
Oh yeah, work backwards.
Right. The next thing I had on my list was to know your ideal customer profile. So I know this is really helpful for us, and one of the first things we ask our clients is, who's your ideal customer, and that helps us to understand who we want to target, how we want to ask the questions,
How we want to talk to them.
right, the terminology. It could, if it's like senior level people versus managers, there's maybe different terminology and maybe even knowledge of that they have to answer the question. So
Absolutely.
understanding that ICP is really important.
Yeah. It also helps with not just, you know, the back end of creating this like survey and formatting the questions and stuff, but also once we're creating like the actual report itself, um, you want to obviously appeal to the audience that you're targeting. So the language that we use, the even the aesthetics of the report itself, it helps to know what the ICP is because if it's an incredibly technical audience, you don't want to present them with like a super fluffy report, right?
Right. And you don't have to have all this to get started. So you don't have to have like all your ducks in a row before you get started. I think what we're talking about here is just to go through the process of starting to gather and think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you have that launch, then when companies work with us, for example, it's what we try to do is walk through and ask the questions with them and kind of like prod into the topic a little bit more to flesh out what we want to do. But by them at least even starting this process of things like the ICP and the objective and how you want to use it, it just, I think at the end of the day, we end up getting to a much better final product, and we do that more quickly.
Yeah, and even if you just go down this list, and I know we're only like halfway through, but like if you go down this list and just kind of not necessarily like you said, make sure you have your ducks in a row, but just think about these things. It's just a really helpful exercise. Like if you think about your ICP and you've already thought about your objective and it doesn't really align, then we kind of have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And we're always a part of this conversation, or typically a part of this conversation with our clients. Like we very often work through this stuff with our clients.
Right. And we, as much as possible, and as you can see, this conversation is that aspect of trying to have a holistic perspective on things. And so, when you have some of these conversations up front, it helps the back end. And then you have, I think, a much cleaner and a much more powerful and effective research study. And probably that really comes into the next one that I put on, which was to think about your value proposition. And I know that's something that many times we do as marketers, and then we sit it on the shelf for a while and just periodically bring it out. But I think with the research, this is a really good time to bring out your value proposition, for the simple reason as you're trying to develop that storyline. Many times, and Jenny, I know you've talked about storyline could be as fundamental as problem solution, and if that's how you're setting up your storyline, you're also thinking about your value prop and what are the most valuable things that you provide to your prospect to overcome these challenges. And so then that feeds right into the type of questions you ask and how you ask them. And there's a lot of alignment there.
Yeah, these research projects are a perfect opportunity to subtly prove your value proposition is valuable.
That's right.
Like prove that there not only is a need for it, but also that, for instance, the people that are already utilizing your product or your services or whatever are doing better, for instance. Just an example, but like it's just such a good opportunity to kind of drive that home.
Right. And quantify it, right? So if you have
Yeah.
statements, if you have typically what I've done before, and with value prop is, you have your primary value proposition and you have sub value propositions underneath it. So you want to start quantifying those. And so the research can actually be a very powerful tool for the final output, but also you can tie it back into the value prop and quantify some of those components of it. And last but not least, we go through all of that. I hope it's not too daunting, because it shouldn't be. Don't be afraid to get started. And so I think that's one of those, you don't want to feel like, oh, I got to get all these things ready before I start. That's definitely not the objective of this conversation today. This is just a thinking tool, some things to help you get to your destination a little bit more quickly. But it's definitely not a, oh, I got to, perform all these things before I get started. Not at all. But I think these can be helpful.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not like all of these things have to be organized and ready to go, all the paperwork filed, all the the T's crossed and I's dotted before these conversations happen. We do have some people that come to us with a very specific list of survey questions already formatted. And we also have people that come to us with like a Google Doc of notes that are just like stream of consciousness notes about what they want to achieve. Both of them are great. You know what I mean? Like we can work with both. And actually, like a lot of times when people get too far into the process without involving experts like us, you end up having to backtrack a bit.
Right. And I think also there's just that element of, I think you just said, which I love, you can just jot down notes, right? It doesn't have to be a completely formed thought. You don't have to, have this well-polished idea, but just getting something down can be helpful. And then that can assist, for example, if we go into a client, raw format things can be very helpful for us, and then we can take it from there and formulate a little bit more, but don't feel like you have to be refined.
Yeah, we actually ask people for that. We're like, if you just have like notes on this, please send it, because it's helpful to hear in your voice what you're thinking and what you want to achieve.
Right. So I mean, like anything else, just like today for the hurricane that's coming in Florida, there's it's nice to have like a little checklist and some preparation that you do, and that tends to be, I would always say, you never regret the preparation. And I think in the research, like you never regret putting in a little bit of time with your team to do some of this prep work. And I do know from our side of the table, it always benefits in the long run. I always feel like we have a much more refined and polished final report.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
well, Todd, I'll let you go buy milk
okay,
in preparation for your your hurricane checklist.
I will. 1%, 2%, whole milk.
Yeah,
I'm just
all
going
the
to get it
different
all.
kinds.
Yeah,
Yeah. Make sure to throw a non-dairy in there.
that's right. Flashlights. We're, I think ice cream would be considered a milk product. So maybe just getting a bunch of ice cream would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely get stuff that will melt if the power
Right.
goes out.
And then you have no guilt when you say, well, we just got to eat this all tonight.
Exactly.
A guilt-free trip.
Right. Hurricane party at its max.
That's right. Well, thanks, Jenna.
Thanks,
And
Todd.
we'll talk to everybody else soon.
All right. See you next time. We want to hear from you. Feel free to comment or leave a review, or head over to ascend2.com to learn more about our research.